So kia ora and welcome to Overcoming Imposter Syndrome. Ko Monique Bradley tōku ingoa, he kai kōrero aho. I am a storyteller, and I often get asked, what does that actually mean? Like, what do you actually do for a job? So I thought I'd unpack that straight away because it is kind of weird when I say I'm a storyteller. A lot of people think, do you sit around a fireside with a recorder singing Kumbaya? No, I don't do that. I'm not that type of storyteller. I'm much more into looking and observing how stories actually influence our lives. So for a job, I am a keynote speaker and I'm an MC, and as you now know, MC of the year for 2024-25. I'm also a TV presenter, so I've worked on a TV shopping channel. I've also had my own show on Sky TV called Guide to Better Living. I'm also a podcaster. I have a podcast called Uncovering Authenticity because my goal in life is really to help people find their own voice and examine how they show up in their own lives. I also do a lot of training work, particularly with organizations, with teams on communication and how we connect through stories. And finally, I'm a coach. So I have a number of one-on-one coaching clients who are either becoming keynote speakers or they are wanting to find their own confidence in the work that they do. So that kind of gives you an idea of everything that I do, but there is one common thread that brings them all together, and it's storytelling. So how did I get onto this bizarre, weird journey of imposter syndrome as a topic? Because for years I've spoken about the power of storytelling. That's what we're going to dive into today. But before we get there, I wanted to share with you first a bit of a reflection. I was taught that we've got to look back to learn, look forward to achieve success. This is something my dad taught me. So I want you to consider, and I want you to put in the comments feed, why are you here today? What was it about this topic that struck a chord with you that you felt you wanted to jump on in here? And if it was because I told you you should, well, of course, that's because I love you and you are amazing. If it was that this topic really stood out, that you might be challenged with, whatever, I want to know your actual thoughts. So if you feel comfortable, share that in the comments feed. And if you're not comfortable sharing, that's absolutely okay. Write it down as a note for yourself. Now, by the way, I can see all your comments there. At the moment, I can see Hannah wrote 20, which is her score for how she's feeling today. But I'd love to know your thoughts. What brought you here today? Oh, I can see you all concentrating. How wonderful. I suffered from many years, and of course I invited you. Yep. You suffered with imposter syndrome. My next book, Cut the Bullshit, is about imposter syndrome. Well, if you quote me in that book, I'll be very happy, Peter. Anita, you've been feeling this way for a while. Wow, you're not alone, my friend. I'll be putting Mrs. Imposter to sleep and just needed help. Oh, I love this because I think everything is possible if you have the right mindset. I love this. I'm an expert presenter. Gosh, thank you so much, Hannah. That's kind. Excellent. Thanks, Peter. You're going to quote me in your book. I hope you take away a couple of little nuggets from me that are quotable moments, or as Oprah would say, tweetable moments. Heather, there seems to be so many more worthy motivational speakers. Oh, my darling, you are worthy. If there is one message you take away from today, let it be that. Heather, I know your story and you do incredible work in the world. Oh my goodness. Antonio, I want to kill the imposter syndrome in me. I'm with you, buddy. Alina, my confidence is in public presentation and marketing activities is not good. And yet you are so gifted and you are so competent. Thought leadership seems a scary topic, or feeling like people might not really find what I have to say of interest. Well, Alina, I have sat and listened to you many times. You are utterly fabulous. You are so interesting to me. And if there's one person thinking that, chances are there will be many, many others. So it sounds like we're all in a bit of a similar vein. And I know this experience too. I've lived it for many years until I realized recently how I'd actually overcome it. So if it's possible for me to do it, it's possible for you to do it too. So I want to share with you my next reflection. And this is what I call my hot button moment. I want you now to use your mind's eye, the power of your beautiful mind, to think in a perfect world. If you were overcoming those challenges, what would life look like for you? What would life look like for you if you knew you could not fail? And I want you to make a bit of a reflection. You can comment in the comments feed about that, or you can write a note to yourself. Now, I call this my hot button visualization, because when I'm struggling to overcome those self-limiting beliefs, I come back to my perfect world scenario. It is the hot button that when I've run out of willpower or motivation, it's that hot button that gets me out of bed and it overrides all those self-limiting beliefs. See, I'm giving you value straight away. So I want you to tell me, what in a perfect world would life look like for you? And I want you to consider your job. I want you to consider your relationships and your friendships. Would you still be seeing those family members that really just are time wasters or energy suckers, I call them, or energy vampires? Would you still be living in the same house or the same area that you're living in? Or in a perfect world, if you knew you couldn't fail, would life be vastly different? It's a good question, right? Oh, I love to see your concentration faces. Fantastic. So you are welcome to share that in the feed if you feel comfortable. And if not, remember, keep that for yourself. But when you've done it, if you've written it down for yourself, I want you to give me a thumbs up. Peter, are you happy for, well, everybody can see, you would be living with your beautiful Rosie in St. Heliers. Oh, I love the power of this visualization. You'd have security of your income and your ability to donate to charities. Oh gosh, Peter, now that you've written that, I want to know, how does that make you feel? I want you to feel into these visualizations. I want you to feel into these pictures, because the one thing I know is that feelings are real. When we feel into these pictures, they also equally become real. Anybody else want to share, or are you all good to go? You're all good to go? I love you. You're amazing. Right. So now you've got your hot button. You know what life can be like if we could just get these pesky self-beliefs out of the way. So here, my friends, we're going to do it. How did I get into this topic? I told you I was going to share why and how. So first of all, part of my journey is that you'll see there on the left, I am currently undertaking a master's at Unitec here in Auckland. I'm doing a master's in creative practice. And what is my creative practice? Keynote speaking. So this topic of authenticity, of how we show up, of how we tell stories is really big for me. But what happened during my master's journey so far, I'm just at the pointy end of it, so only just a couple of months away till the very end, is I had to apply what's called an autoethnographic approach to my research. Autoethnography is the study of the self. So suddenly I was confronted with all of my amazing achievements, all of my knowledge, all of my research, and equally all of my shadows. And I had to become very present. I had to have what my beautiful friend Monica Moore says, a meeting with myself. And I had to look at my own self-limiting beliefs that were getting in the way of my own progress. I had to acknowledge all of my subconscious bias and how they were holding me back from accelerating. And I would go into a supervision with one of my supervisors and I'd say, I've come up with this and this and this. And they said, well, if you have the answers, you have nothing to learn. So I had to keep looking back to learn so I could look forward to achieve success. This thing my father told me, keep looking back, keep reflecting, and then we move forward. And that's been the last 14 months of my life, is constantly reflecting and really owning up to what I think is getting in the way of me achieving the life that I want, that hot button vision that motivates me to do more and to be more in the world. So the second thing that happened was that 2 months ago, I was at a Business and Beyond networking meeting. Now, Business and Beyond is a networking group that my partner Pete and I own, we co-own. And I was there and I was up doing what I do, and I was presenting and I was talking about things. And then this gentleman came up to me and he said, Monique, I just want to know, see how you're all so confident. You're so great speaking in front of people and nothing's a problem and you have a flow of words and wow, I wish I could be more like you. And I said, no. I don't want you to be more like me. I want you to be more like you. He goes, yeah, but how do you do that? I don't have that level of confidence. And that really hit home to me, because that was the moment that I realized I finally had that confidence. He said, what does it take to do that? And I looked him in the eyes and I said, it comes from having unwavering faith in who I am, what I can do, and how I serve. And it was the first time I had been able to articulate this so succinctly. And I realized just how far my journey of self-development, self-acceptance, self-worth, self-empathy had evolved. And then I realized that label that I'd lived under previously of imposter syndrome was no longer there. And it was just me. Now, this was a massive, massive difference for me because I didn't start out that way. In fact, I wanted to give you an insight into my origin story so you have some context, because that's what our brains are always looking for: clarity, context, and understanding. So this is me. This is my origin story. That is my father there, Morris Bradley, on the left, my beautiful mother, Helena, and that is me. I was about 2.5, maybe 3 years of age. So you can see, I certainly wasn't from your typical waif and stray family. My father was 6'3". He was a morbidly obese man. My mother is 5 foot tall. She's also pretty darn curvy. And I was born the morbidly obese child into the morbidly obese family. So you can probably understand that growing up in a family like that, we got a lot of people staring at us. I was also growing up in a time when New Zealand was a very different socio-political place. I had a white dad and a brown mother, and they really had challenges financially. They couldn't get funding for things. You see, the reality is my father actually went blind when I was 18 months old. So suddenly this tall, mighty tōtara tree in our family, he was the sole income earner for our family, and we had no income. I still remember my mother cutting up her clothing to sew together to make blankets for my bed. So that happened when I was 18 months old, and around the same time, I was a child who had an incredible vocabulary and a bit of a gift with words. I felt like I was born with a million words inside my body, but I couldn't walk. In fact, at 18 months, I wasn't walking at all. I was abnormally large. I was morbidly obese. And because it appeared that I couldn't walk, I wasn't even crawling. The doctors believed that there was something wrong with me, that I might have had a tumour on my pituitary gland or my thyroid, or in their words, that I was retarded. It's a pretty heavy mantle to carry, right? So the doctors took me in and they scanned my brain and they brought me back out to my parents and they said, no, we understand what's going on here. And they looked up at my dad and they looked at my mum and they said, no, we get this picture. The reality is elephants don't make mice. Now, for a child who has an advanced understanding of words and stories, that became my story. So I assumed the label of the fat kid. And the more I got out there and started socialising, I went to kindy and was bullied for being the fat kid. I went to school and was bullied for being the fat kid. And of course, the more I was bullied, the more it reaffirmed that story in my brain. And the more I stressed, the more I ate. And so the fatter I became. And it wasn't just from the kids either. I remember Mrs. Webb, a teacher that I had when I was about 8 years old, and she wanted us to do cross-country running. Now, when you are a larger child, navigating your way through life is really challenging. It is really hard. Not only is it physically hard, it's emotionally hard as well. And I would try my very best, but I remember this one day where Mrs. Webb said to me, "Go on, Monique, you need to go and run. You need to do this cross-country." And I said to her, "But Mrs. Webb, I have a headache and I can't see properly in my eye," because we have a family history of migraine. I didn't know how to articulate it then. And Mrs. Webb looked at me and said, "Well, if you weren't quite so fat and you did more running, you wouldn't even have headaches." Shocking, right? And it didn't stop, even when I was 12 years of age, so still a morbidly obese kid. In fact, I was bigger at the age of 12 than I am now. Going to the orthodontist in Wellington, and Dr. Stallworthy was his name. He looked at my mother and then he looked at me and he said, "We won't bother giving your daughter braces because look at her. It's not like she's ever going to be a movie star." So my parents saw all this, and bless them, they did such amazing work for me. You see, they grew up in the theatre. They were both performers and speakers, and that they knew that there's so much you can do, so much confidence to be gained through storytelling. So from the age of 8, in fact, they put me into speech and drama lessons, and then I went on and I started singing. I actually started training as an opera singer when I was 11, and I found that suddenly I had this place. You see, when I stood on the stage, the bullies couldn't touch me. I found my voice. Off the stage, I was battling with all of these feelings of, I'm just the fat kid, I can't do this, I can't do that. I was limiting myself and my expression of who I am, but on the stage is where I flourished. And the only thing that I can kind of liken it to is this incredible quote from Albert Einstein. He says that everyone is a genius, but if you judge a fish on its ability to climb a tree, it will wind up believing or thinking that it's stupid. So here I was, this child trying to be a fish, trying to climb many trees, but the only tree that was actually really right for me, where I could swim effectively, was the stage. So one of the things I want you to reflect on at the moment is, if you are struggling with imposter syndrome, think about yourself as that fish. Are you in the flow of your life? Or are you right now trying to climb that tree? This may be the first time you even consider, what is flow for me? Now, I'm not saying we can't do lots of things, because we can. But in the training work that I've done with a program called Wealth Dynamics, which is a program designed for entrepreneurs and business owners to find your flow of money in your business, there are 2 key areas. There is your path of flow, which is the path of least resistance in the brain, which is your path of genius. And genius here has nothing to do with IQ, by the way. I just want to telegraph that. And then there's your realms of competency. And we can be very competent at lots of things. But when you find your flow, that's where you find your confidence. That's where people see your light shine. That's where money comes to you. That's where everything for you is effortless. Now, if you're not feeling like you're in flow right now, seriously, you need to book a one-on-one with me. We need to have a whole other conversation. But it's something that I want you to consider as we go through today's chat. So how did that manifest in my life? Well, I thought, I can't be a full-time actor because I've already been told that I can't, but I still did a degree in theatre and film, and I still went on to TVNZ once I finished my degree. And I actually did a diploma in film and television production because I love the industry and I know the power of stories. Most of my upbringing was governed by stories, both those negative ones and some incredible positive ones as well. And I thought, well, I better get a real job. So I ended up working for a bank. And it put me into this state, a state of dis-ease, because it was not my flow. You see, I thought by working in a bank, I could sit on the phones all day and talk. And that's the one thing I know I'm really good at. But the reality is, a bank is not just about talking. There's a whole lot of systems and processes that are in place, the constant updates to the technology. Everything moved far faster than my brain could comprehend. And that's when I realized, oh my goodness, here I am, this fish again, trying to climb this tree. Everything in a world of systems and processes where my brain is neurodivergent, it's neurofabulous, it's non-linear. I don't think in sequences like anybody else. I think in mind maps and possibilities and potential. I feel like I'm a fraud. And what manifested in me was this feeling of stress, of tension, of the twinklings of anxiety, and moments even of depression as I started to really step into feeling like an imposter. And the only way that I can physically represent this is if you take one hand like this. So do this with me, and then put your hand like this. And I want you to press. These are like 2 opposing forces. And I want you to press, and I want you to keep pressing, and I want you to feel what that's doing in your body. Feel. Are you feeling like your muscles are starting to shake and fatigue? Well, that's what happened to me. That constant tension, which is what this represents, fatigued my entire body. And I ended up in a state of dis-ease that manifested physically in my body. So I ended up with a condition known as OOS, Occupational Overuse Syndrome, or RSI, Repetitive Strain Injury. And that went right up my arms. I had epicondylitis and tenosynovitis, if you want the technical terms, went up both of my arms, and I got to a stage where I couldn't do simple things like turn a door handle. I couldn't open bottles, and I still struggle a little with that today. And I also ended up not being able to do things like wash my hair. Simple things we take for granted. And it all came from the way I thought about myself and my abilities. Does that make sense? Does that resonate with anybody? I'd love to know in the comments feed if you've ever experienced that stress or that tension that manifests physically in your body. Has anybody experienced that at all? I can see you in the feed there. Yeah, I'm seeing a few nodding heads. You know it. You feel it. You're with me. Perfect. So what I want to do today is give you some techniques to help you override that, because what I can tell you is none of that was fun. None of that journey was fabulous. And that's how I want to live my life. I want you to live a fabulous life as well. And my journey to healing and research has taken me more than 25 years. But finally, while I'm still learning every day like we all are, I think I've got something, and that's what I want to share with you today. So I want to ask you, here's a question. I want you to comment in the comments feed. What do you think imposter syndrome is? What is it really? I want to see your comments, and I can see you all. Fantastic. I can see you all writing frantically. I think Pete's going to open up the comments for me. Right, here we go. Self-doubt, thinking you are less worthy than others, focusing on what you don't have. Oh, Sarah, that's a great point. Welcome, Sarah. I didn't see you before. Self-doubt in your abilities, feeling like you want to be something else, I think, there. I feel like I'm still, let's go down, Pete. Yep. I feel like a voice that tells us we have attained a level of excellence without being worthy of it. Oh, that's an interesting one. It's our defaults that manifest into a perceived idea. I love that, Dory, as well. Some really great comments there. And yes, you are right. Those are all different experiences of imposter syndrome. Today, I am going to step you through the 5 key signifiers of what imposter syndrome manifests as. But really, it's, those feelings of feeling like a fraud, doubting your abilities, fearing being exposed. That's how I felt when I was working in the bank, constantly thinking they're going to know I don't really know what I'm doing on a computer. And to be fair, before I started in the bank, I was computer illiterate. I had never used a computer before. So every day I felt like they're going to find out. Somebody's looking over my shoulder, and that constant feeling that you're being watched. That was my experience. And over a period of time, it just manifests into such tension and, like I said, dis-ease. The reality is, and this gives me some strength, I want to say, the reality is that you are not alone. In fact, on average, research shows us that around 70% of people, and I've got a screen to show you there. I think it's coming up on the screen now. 70% of people experience imposter syndrome at some point in their careers. In fact, another study I read shows us that 70 to 80% of people deal with imposter syndrome on a daily basis. So if you've been experiencing it, my friends, you are not alone. And I had to show Lady Gaga here because she shared in an interview, I still sometimes feel like a loser kid in high school, and I have to just pick myself up and tell myself that I'm a superstar every morning so that I can get through the day and be there for my fans. It's not about me. It's the people that I serve. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that beautiful? And that's the technique that she has used to override those feelings of imposter syndrome. Now, I mentioned that there are 5 key signifiers or signs of imposter syndrome. Who is ready to find out what they are? Are you ready? Feeling good? Ready to, yeah, I'm seeing some nodding heads. This is exciting. Okay, first of all, what I call the self-doubt spiral. It's about questioning your abilities. So you're constantly questioning your abilities or feeling inadequate, even when there's clear evidence of your success. Common thoughts that you might have: I don't belong here. I'm not good enough. Someone else could do this better. I hear this from people all the time. When it comes to behavior, you may notice that you over-prepare or you second-guess your decisions, or you may hesitate to take on new challenges. Again, you are not alone. And why this actually happens, the reason why is actually, it's all about high expectations and fear of failure that drives your self-doubt. So it's the desire to prove yourself that leads you to overcompensating, and then you basically get paralysis by overanalysis. So that's your first one. The next key point, it's perfectionism pressure. So I don't know if you've experienced this, I certainly have, where you set unrealistically high standards for yourself and feeling like even small mistakes confirm your lack of ability. For anybody who might be neurodivergent on the call, we have time blindness. So I always underestimate how much I can do in a period of time, and then I have put pressure on myself to get everything done. Common thoughts you might have: if it's not perfect, it doesn't count. And I'll be exposed if I don't deliver perfectly. What are the behaviors around this? We often see people who experience procrastination or burnout. I've done this. And reluctance to delegate. So that perfectionism leads to control, and that leads to that burnout, and you don't want to be experiencing that fear of failure in front of others. And why it happens, we allow imposter syndrome to convince us that anything less than perfect will reveal our incompetencies. Been there, done that. I do have a t-shirt, by the way. Next up, it's about attributing success to luck or external factors. And this is such a Kiwi thing. It is such a Kiwi thing to play down our achievements. And often we attribute them to external factors such as, oh, it was just about the timing, or, oh, it was, I was just lucky, rather than actually acknowledging our skills and effort. I've done this myself. I've heard myself when people say, Monique, you're such a great MC, you're such a great speaker. And I go, oh, I give it a nudge. That's me really leaning into the signifier or the sign. Common thoughts we have: I just got lucky. It's only because I had help. Oh, well, anyone could have done it. I hear this all the time. Now, behavior which is typical with this factor is avoiding praise or compliments, or deflecting that acknowledgement of success. And finally, why this happens in your life is because instead of acknowledging your own hard work and capability, you believe success is accidental, or in many cases is undeserved. Now, if any of these resonate with you, I want you to comment. I've just seen, oh God, that is me. I'm with you. It's such a common Kiwi thing as well. The next signifier or sign is fear of exposure. And this is what I really experienced in the bank. It's constantly comparing yourself to others and believing everyone else is more competent or deserving of success. So if you are looking at your key competitors in business on social media and you're going, oh, wow, they're doing so much better than I am, just stop looking. Real simple. I stopped years ago, and I'm so much better for it. Common thoughts you might have: they're so much better than me. I'll never measure up. I don't deserve the same recognition. Let's get rid of that thought today, by the way. The behavior that you might exhibit: undermining your accomplishments by focusing on what others have achieved or appear to have mastered. And why this happens: this occurs when you overestimate other people's skills and success while underestimating your own, leading to feelings of inadequacy. And remember too, anything you see on social media, if it is your key competitors, we don't even know if it's real. Even reality TV is not real. So let's just let that sit in there. And I know because I've done some. All right, the final signifier or sign is comparing is fear of, have I got the right one there? Comparing yourself to others. Yes, fear of exposure. Did I just say the same thing twice? No, comparing yourself to others. Why have I got the same thing? Fear of being found out. I've doubled up on my screens, but fear of exposure, is the fraud. Fear of being found out. People will, have we done that one? I'm just raving now.
We did that one.
We did that one?
Yeah.
We're doing this one?
Yeah, that one.
I've just read the same information twice. You get the idea. We want to make sure that we're not in the state of comparing ourselves all the time. It's not real. I just had the wrong information on the wrong screen. I'm going to jump back to fear of exposure. Sorry, it's fear of being found out, that people will think you are not as capable as you think, or that as you appear. It's about getting caught faking it. Look, what I know from theatre is sometimes we have to fake it till we make it. And the reality is, your energy flows where your attention goes. So if you keep focusing on those self-limiting beliefs, you will manifest them and amplify them. As soon as we start to step into that hot button of that life we want to live, we actually start to override those self-limiting beliefs. So stop keeping a low profile. Get yourself out there. You are amazing. Right, jumping forward, fear of exposure. We've got that one. Comparing yourself to others. We've got that one. Here we go. I'm going to jump forward. I'm going to be a little bit disruptive today, and I'm proud of it. Pete, I need a 2-screen for this. I need you to put me in 2-screen. I am here to disrupt the fact, or the facts associated with imposter syndrome. And I'm going to say, hand on heart, I don't believe in it. Now, for somebody like me, and I know I'm seeing a few of you go, what? You're just talking about it. You've experienced it. That's right. I do not believe in it, and it's got to stop. I'm on a one-woman crusade to stop it immediately because it is holding us back. Now, if you've ever Googled what a syndrome is, and I say this with absolute love and care because I have family members who have different syndromes. And a syndrome, if we think in that medical sense, a syndrome is, say, a change in the metabolic pathway as a fetus is developing. So something like I have a family member with a child with Down syndrome as an example. Now, the reality is that beautiful human that is there living with Down syndrome, she can't change the way that she is. She will always have those learning difficulties and those challenges. She is beautiful and amazing in her own skin, even with those other limitations or developmental delays that she might have. The technical term for a syndrome is actually just a group of symptoms kind of grouped together and given a label. So there's not actually an official diagnosis for these types of syndromes. And what we know is often we can take a label and hide behind it. So if you think of a lot of women in particular that I end up coaching, they get lost, they lose their sense of identity when they take on that label of becoming a mother. And it's a wonderful label to carry, but once their child has flown away from the nest, suddenly they end up in that empty nest space because they've lost that label of their own identity, of their own sense of self. They've hidden behind this other label for too long, doing so much for everyone else. And all of our mothers are amazing and I love them and they're fantastic. But you are more than just the label. And I want to disrupt your thinking. It is easy for us to hide behind a label when we are so much more. Now, I thought I'd better back this up with a little bit of research. So instead of just Googling Dr. Google, I actually went to Wikipedia. And imposter syndrome is not a recognized psychiatric disorder and is not featured in the American Psychiatric Association's diagnostic manual, nor is it listed as a diagnosis. And this is really important to remember. So I'm not saying that you're kooky or weird, because you're not. You are experiencing feelings, and feelings are real. And I need you to remember that and hold on to that. The other thing that I want you to take on board too is that Dr. Valerie Young states in her book, The Secret Thoughts of Successful Women, imposter feelings are a reaction, not a reflection of your abilities. And this really highlights that imposter syndrome doesn't reflect the reality of your achievements or your skills, but is simply a misplaced emotional response that many of us have. That's about being human. It's the human condition. And I love this because we start to go, actually, if it's just a label, maybe I am more than that. Am I playing too much into that label of imposter syndrome? And if I could just take off that label, who am I underneath? That's where I want you to get today. The good news is, like I said, imposter syndrome is a label. Your feelings are important, and the experience itself is a feeling. And the great news is feelings can change. And I want to give you some context around that. If you think about when you were at high school and you were in love with a band or the lead singer of a band and suddenly they were your absolute obsession and, oh my God, imagine if you could marry that lead singer of that band and what would life be like? You were creating your own hot buttons way back then. Oh, creating that perfect life. And then a week later, you're in love with a different band and, oh my gosh, this lead singer is amazing. Oh, if I saw them, I would probably faint. And you get the story, right? Our feelings change, which gives you the power to understand that those feelings of the label of imposter syndrome can change too. And I have to say, I am proof that it's possible. So, one of the ways that actually helped me overcome this was landing my dream job. TV shopping actually helped me, and I have a whole keynote all about TV shopping. And in particular, how this worked was when I met Pete, which was 13, not Pete Chatteris that's on this chat, by the way, but my partner Pete Wood. Hello, Pete. My partner Pete Wood. We were both professional musicians, and we were out there as performers, and it was fantastic. We can come back to the studio now, Pete. Thank you. We were performers, and Pete came from a digital background, and he taught me a whole lot about computers. Now, remember, the only time I've ever used computers was working in the bank. So even when I met Pete, I only knew the computer systems that were used with the bank. I was literally a noob. And if you know what noob means, then you'll know what I'm talking about. So Pete taught me a lot about, website building and design. And I knew a lot about marketing and media because I'd previously been a magician and I had to use advertising to get myself out there. I had my own performing arts school, so I knew a lot about marketing and traditional methods of advertising, but I didn't know much about digital. So Pete taught me heaps. And so many people saw what we did in digital that they actually said, wow, can you do digital for us? And we went, oh, I guess so. Oh, yeah. And suddenly overnight we had a digital agency. We didn't even want one. But when you're a performer, you've got to go where the money is, right? You got to think critically about this. So I got to do a bit of music and we had a digital agency. And right through that time, and I did this work for 11 years, I would still second guess myself going, oh, do I know the latest updates that are happening with Facebook right now? Like constantly. It was a real battle. But somebody saw the work that I did in social media and they said, hey, Pete, Monique, do you want to come in and talk to this TV shopping channel about taking over their social media to help them tell better stories? And I went, oh, yeah. And they didn't know that I was obsessed with TV shopping. So I would watch TV shopping and I'd look at the nuances of the performers on the screen and how do they do what they do and how they hold products beautifully and still. And what they do is they get really excited using their voices and then they would direct their attention to the product while keeping that product still the whole time, because the product is actually the hero. We're just the exciters. And I learned all these things by watching them. And I thought one day, that's my dream job. I would love to work as a TV shopping presenter. So we get to this meeting to talk about social media. And as I was talking in my Monique way, I remember the producer watching me going, have you ever done sales before? And I said, well, yeah, I manage some retail stores and I love it really. I love to sell and, because it's all about telling stories. He goes, have you ever been on camera before? And I went, oh, yeah, I've done a few things. I did a degree and did some stuff and I've been in a couple of films, internationals and a couple of New Zealand films. So, yeah, I've done a fair bit of work, done some commercials. He goes, do you want to do a camera test? And in that moment, my two worlds collide. My journey of, oh my God, this is my dream, good job. And then my subconscious thoughts going, who the hell are you to be going for a job like this? They all collided into this moment where I just went, oh, yeah. Like, it was so weird. So weird. A week later, I had to come back to the studio and I remember Pete driving me into the studio, which is where they filmed the project for a number of years as well. So he drove me to Yes Shop and I remember sitting in the car going, oh my God, who am I to do this? Just take me home. I can't do this. And Pete's like, this is your dream job. Oh, I can't even do it. I don't even know my own name. Oh, who am I to think that I could do something like this? This is awful. And I had been asked to prepare a product, which I couldn't even think of any products. Now, I had been emceeing the food show. And that was kind of okay because I had learnt to become more confident as an MC. And the only product I could think of at the time was Village Press olive oil. And it was amazing because my mum, who's a cooking teacher, told me it was. Like, that was literally all I could think of. So we're driving in the car and Pete says to me, come on now, this is, you said you could do this. You would unpack everybody on TV. You knew you could do it. Come on, where have you gone? What's going on? And I went, no, can't do it. I'm going to throw up. And he said, Monique, you've got one shot. So crap or get off the pot. That happened. And for those of you who know Pete, you'll probably have a bit of a laugh. But he enabled me to reflect back onto myself. He mirrored me back. So I had a meeting with myself and I went, actually, you're right. This dream that Dr. Stallworthy said I would never achieve, that Mrs. Webb said I would never achieve, suddenly all of those moments collided and I went, I'm going to do it. And I walked in, I was a shaking mess. But, fake it till you make it. That's what we were taught in theatre. I walked into the studio and I put down the product and they came and mic'd me up and I thought, don't show them that you're shaking. I had wide leg pants on so you couldn't see my legs sort of shaking inside. I went, yep, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. And before I knew it, they were going 3, 2, 1. And I went, kia ora everybody, I'm Monique Bradley and today I want to share with you this amazing product direct from my pantry. This is Village Press olive oil and all of this magic came out. It was unbelievable. And then when I finished, 7 minutes went so fast and the producer comes back into the studio and said, okay. And I thought, I felt my stomach sinking and I thought I've messed up. The imposter syndrome label started to come back. I could feel it slapping on me. He said, look, we're going to get you to do it again. Just do it a little slower. Okay. It wasn't a no. It wasn't a you're crap. It was a there's something there. So I did it again and I finished. And a week later, I got the phone call saying, Monique, we'd love you to come and work for Yes Shop. We think you've got a great energy and we'd love you as part of the team. And so I landed my dream job. Thank you so much. Thank you, Peter. I landed my dream job. And that was I really had to start this journey of, wow, if I'm out here promoting products and sharing my opinion with people, I need to be able to back myself. And that involved into a number of different lessons, which I share in different keynotes as well. And I'm going to give you a little snippet as we finish up today of a really funny story that really cemented to me how far I had come in overcoming these self-limiting beliefs. But what I learned from that moment, and this is what I really want you to understand, and you probably know this already, it's not rocket science. Our fears are often bigger than the act itself. So have you ever done something in your life? I want you to reflect on this and go, wow, I achieved this, but that lead up to it was horrendous. Did I make a mountain out of a molehill? And the answer is, and I'm saying this with love and good intentions, yes, we do. And I say we because I've done it myself. And there's a reason why. Why do you think, and I'd love to know this in the comments feed, why do you think we make a mountain out of a molehill while we activate all of these self-limiting beliefs? What do you think it is? What is that fear that underpins these challenges? I'd love to know if you know in the comments feed. Good to see a few laughs there. What do you think is the number one fear that holds us back? Fear of change? Fear of failure? Oh, so close. So close. For me, it's thinking people will judge you or what others think. Very good. Because fear is a prediction of something bad happening. It is a fear of self. These are great comments. What else do you think? I can see some people still typing, some people not sure. And that's okay. You don't have to answer. You could phone a friend, ask the audience. Oh, wrong show today. I will share with you, sorry, my bracelet's just coming off now. I'll share with you the number one fear. It may not be what you think, and some of you got it right. It's actually the fear of being judged, and it is a very primal thing. The fear of judged is the number one fear. And in fact, in the world, the biggest fear, so this underpins everything that we do, right? And I read a statistic that shows that people would rather be in a casket than speak the eulogy at a funeral. So it shows you that fear of being judged is constantly with us. Again, it's a primal thing. And it actually comes back to this really important document here, or this image, and it's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So if you have a look in that list, we've got fear of exposing your feelings, glossophobia. Yes, that's right, Peter. That's exactly what fear of public speaking is about. We have needs. This hierarchy of needs is really important. Maslow created this list of needs, which are the benchmarks or the bottom line of what we need to survive and to thrive. So at the very bottom, you've got your physiological needs, such as breathing, food, water, shelter, all those sorts of things. Now, if you have a look up the list, you'll see under love and belonging is a sense of connection. So often we are fearful of change, or we're fearful of failure. We're fearing putting ourselves out there because we don't want to be ostracized, because the sense of connection is one of the things that we need at a primal level for survival. It's so simple, right? And all of those stories and all of those fears come back to one common source. And I don't like to vilify anything right now, but it comes back to this. And it is your beautiful, and I want to say beautiful, your beautiful brain. Our brains are amazing, but I want to say right now, like I'm being disruptive about imposter syndrome, your brain is not the boss of you. Well, it is kind of technically. You can use your conscious and intentional mind to make changes, to override those self-limiting beliefs. So your brain at a very primal caveman level is designed to keep you safe, which sometimes means holding you back from perceived risks. But the good news is you can retrain some of those thoughts and beliefs, and we're going to do this by the end of today, to enable you to override that label. Now, who wants to do that? Are you with me? Do you want to do that? Yeah, woohoo! That's what we love. That's what I love to see. So I want to unpack this very quickly for you as well. So some of you will understand that we have two key parts to the brain, the subconscious and the conscious. So first of all, I want to jump into the subconscious and what it does. So it governs 95% of our behavior. It is rooted in our long-term memory. It governs our emotions, our automatic processes. It also stores our beliefs, habits, and emotional patterns. And that governs the way that we operate in this world. This is like your book of operations or your mode of operations. Simple, but 95% of your day is governed by your subconscious. So if you've ever driven somewhere and you get to your destination and you go, oh, geez, I don't remember how I even got here. That was your subconscious brain on autopilot driving you there. Now, it is really important because it also governs your autonomic nervous system, and that governs, that basically keeps your heart pumping and keeps you breathing. So it is a really important part of driving this incredible machine of a body that you have. On the other side, that 5% of your mind is super important too. It is your conscious mind. It operates in the present moment. It's about handling logical thinking, decision-making, and short-term memory. But it only controls 5% of our daily activities, including our intentional actions and focused thoughts. So let me give you an example of the conscious mind. If you are sitting down watching this, which I think you all are, you can suddenly become present and aware of the chair that's underneath you. Can you feel those feelings? Yeah, you can. You can feel that chair underneath your bottom, underneath your legs. And if you're standing, you can, or if your feet are touching the ground, you can probably feel that feeling of that pressure underneath your feet. That is you becoming conscious and in the present moment. So if we have a whole lot of stories and beliefs that are sitting in our subconscious mind, governing 95% of our day, do you start to see that correlation between how those self-limiting beliefs that are there, stored away to protect you, might get in the way of you achieving that beautiful visualization we did at the very beginning of how life could really look? Can you start to see that correlation? I do hope so. I can see some nodding heads, so that's good. And we can see some thumbs up. That's great. So what I want you to consider is that you're also like me. You're a storyteller. And every time we have something happen in our lives, our beautiful brain, without us even knowing it, starts to write a new story and a new chapter and a new book in the library of our minds. And those books become the books that we operate our lives by. So every time you go to do something, whether it's change, whether it's something new, whether it's something out of your comfort zone, your brain, your subconscious mind will go faster than you can even think it and index those stories to look for case studies, for modes of operation. And it's doing it again to protect you. It is absolutely wonderful. It does automatic retrieval. But the reality is some of those stories are outdated. So my goal for you today is to write one new story that we're going to do together, which will become the master controller. And we're going to use the conscious mind to do that, to embed a new story. But look, there's a really important question that comes up at this time in this keynote, and it's how does the brain create these self-limiting beliefs? It does it through the way that we feel and experience the world. Remember, I said feelings are real. So your brain is constantly looking for some important things. It's looking for context. It's looking for clarity. And it's working to look to make understanding of the world around us. It's trying to work out in any given moment, are these people friends or foes? Is that saber-toothed tiger a friend or a foe? And it's doing it for us to keep us alive. It's so simple. And it's doing it through our eyes, and through our visual mind as well, through our thoughts. It's doing it through our ears. It's doing it through our nose. And it's doing it through our physical the things that we touch. All of those senses combine to create the stories that are lodged up in our library. And I'm not going to lie, some of those stories are not so great and are challenging, but there are equally many great stories. And often when we come to make change, when our brain goes to index those stories, even though we might have 99 success stories or case studies associated with what we're about to do, our brain naturally goes to that one story which was a failure, to protect us from risk. How is that resonating with all of you? Is that making sense? Yeah. So it's a natural thing. So I want you to love your brain. And if you find at some stage when you're coming up against these stories or these beliefs, I want you to consciously and intentionally say, brain, I love you and you are amazing, but I am the central character of my life and I'm ready to step into the spotlight. How does that land for you? Make sense? Beautiful. I can see some of you writing that down. Fantastic. The other thing that I found really interesting during my research is that around 70 to 80% of our core identity is actually shaped by the age of 7. Now, this is really important to know too, because all of those stories, all those things that largely happen because of the brain waves that are happening through early childhood in particular, our brains are like sponges. So we are writing the most stories that we can at that time. That's where we form our sense of self, how we are loved and appreciated in the world. And I'm not here to be a therapist. And in fact, if this is resonating, you're going, actually, like lots of things happen to me, please seek professional help on this. Because I want you to be free of any of those stories that might hold you back and move forward into creating the story of your life. Become the author, become the narrator of your new story. So one of the things I want you to consider now then is this question, and I do this actually in my podcast. I will often ask, if you jump back in your timeline, who was 6-year-old you? And I want you to write that in the comments feed. I want you to remember who you were. Like my dad said, look back to learn, look forward to achieve success. Who are you? Oh, lots of concentration. Very good. Didn't speak much. Wow, Hannah. And wanting to please everyone. Okay. Thank you, Hannah, for sharing that. I really don't remember, like a trauma blank. Alina, thank you so much. Okay. Chances are there are things you can't see or remember. Anita, middle child, so didn't really have a say. Wow. A bullied nerd building radio sets, couldn't articulate my feelings. So there's lots of those things. So chances are there's stories in there. Now, interesting that you've all gone back. Oh, Dory, I was on stage and loving it, But as the imposter syndrome grew, I dropped out. Really interesting. I wanted to say, first of all, when I do this exercise, 99% of the time, people will, unless they're on the podcast and they talk about something really positive, they will instantly go back to those stories of challenges. Because again, your brain is hardwired to protect you from risk. Oh, sorry. All good, Heather. Lovely to see you. Thanks for popping in. Christine. Oh, Christine, hello. My father passed and no one in my family talked about losing him. So our brains naturally go back to indexing those stories. So I want to challenge you again, and I want you to think about a happy memory that you have from childhood as well. So think about a happy childhood memory. See if you can index that one too. I'm getting you to do a lot of work right now, but this is good because your brain actually loves it. Starting school. That was a happy memory for you, Hannah. Spending fun times with my sisters. I love that. So that need for connection. Any other comments there? I can see some of you writing. Hanging out with my brother, making model yachts and sailing them with my dad, then sailing P-class yachts. Wow, that is so cool. Amazing. Thank you again for sharing that feedback. I recently interviewed a guy, and this is interesting because I'd love to know too at some stage. I want you to reflect on those happy memories and consider what is the correlation or the common thread into what you do now. So for me, I used to pretend, if you're old enough to know who Alison Holst is, I used to stand in the kitchen and make cheese scones, and I would have the window in front of me as my TV screen, and I could see my reflection, and I would make these cheese scones and go, hello, I'm Alison Holst, which is kind of funny because in my grown-up life, I have ended up doing cooking shows on TV as well. So I could see that common thread linking back to who 6-year-old self knew she really was. And now her and I, we live together in my body, and I'm so aware of that authentic self in me, that authentic part of me where the bullies couldn't touch. And that's really what I'd like for you. Recently, I interviewed a guy called Jason Venu from CoverSure, which is an insurance company. And he was on my podcast and we got through everything and he talked about challenges and adversity. And I said to him, so Jason, who was 6-year-old self? And he said, I was Batman. And he was so clear. He was right there. And I said, I find this so interesting because look at what you do right now. Batman was all about protecting homes and people and families. And you do that with your insurance business. And he went, I saw this penny drop. And he went, wow, 6-year-old me is with me all the time. Yes. So that's the authentic part of you coming through. And I'd like you to, at some stage, find out if you even know who 6-year-old you is. Are you friends? Do you honor 6-year-old you? Have you had a conversation? And I know it sounds all a little bit weird, but there's a lot of psychology behind this process of connecting back to the core and the essence of who you really are, because that core is the fish that knows how to swim. That core is your flow. And when you find your flow, that's one of those key things that overrides imposter syndrome. But one of the things I want you to do as well is to not step into what I call the blame game. And so often it's so easy for us to go, well, I have imposter syndrome because of, the experiences I had when I was a kid. Like I was there for years. I did that. Or I blame my parents because of this and that. Well, here's the thing. Your parents also probably did some amazing things for you. And a way to heal that trauma or to move forward is to go, my parents, I can blame them for these fails, but I can also blame them for my success because they instilled all of these qualities in me as well. And while some people may have had some really traumatic experiences with their parents, and again, if you need help and support, please seek professional advice on this. While you may have had some traumatic experiences, you're not there anymore. Those experiences do not define you in the conscious present moment. You do. So we want to let go of that blame game and we want to let go of the label and step into our authentic selves. Does that make sense, everybody? You're with me? Yay, fantastic. So I'm just going to do a recap of what we've done so far. We've acknowledged that fear of judgment is the number one reason underpinning this label and all the signs and symptoms of imposter syndrome. We know that our beautiful brains are there, designed to protect us from risk. And finally, one of the key challenges is not showing up authentically. So being able to tap into who you really are is super, super important. So if you get a chance, have a date with 6-year-old self and see what 6-year-old self wants to say. Right. So my next question to you, who's ready to make a change? Are you ready? If you're ready, I need you to comment in the comments feed and go, I am ready. I want you to do that right now. I am ready. Yes. Yes, I am ready. Yes, I am ready. Yes, I am ready. Yes, always ready to make a change. So what I want you to do, I am on the way and must get more ready. Okay, Peter, you are ready. You are born ready, Peter. Excellent. Now, one of the things I want you to consider, just jumping back before we step forward, I want you to remember back to what we did at the very beginning. What is your hot button? Think it. Feel it, see it in your mind, experience what it'll look like if you knew you could not fail. I want you to feel it. It's the one thing that will keep you motivated. Have you got it? Are you with me? Yeah, you're with me. I can see it. This is fantastic. So we're going to step into, I have a 4-step process, which I have used because I developed it as a way to overcome my own imposter syndrome, or the label of it, so that it's no longer with me anymore. And I can say wholeheartedly, I know who I am, I know what I do, and I know how I can serve, just like Lady Gaga. Here we go. Let's dive in. There are 4 key steps that I have developed to overcome imposter syndrome: embracing reality, being in the conscious present moment, practicing self-compassion. And I'm going to give you some tips and techniques today to do this. Identifying your strengths. And today we are going to challenge your negative thoughts. We are going to override it and reprogram your brain by the end of this session. It is that simple. You are going to absolutely love this. So first of all, when it comes to embracing reality, imposter syndrome is often rooted in a disconnect between perception and reality. I want you to acknowledge that feeling like a fraud doesn't mean that you are one. If you need to screenshot this, please do. Feeling like a fraud does not mean that you are one. I want you to know that you have earned your place and the successes you've achieved are real. Oh, hello, Antonio, you've got to go? Oh, I need to jump into another meeting. No problem. We're just about there. I'll send the end of this to you. The other thing that I wanted to share is that by recognizing these feelings as natural but not factual, you begin to break free from the grip of imposter syndrome. So what can you do about it? Here is your action step. When you catch yourself feeling unworthy, I want you to pause and reflect on your actual accomplishments. And at first, this is hard. But the way to support yourself in doing this is to write down a list of the things that you have achieved and have it handy, so that when you are feeling that imposter syndrome creeping in, you can review your list and go, oh yeah, that's right, I did this. Oh yeah, that's right, I've done that. And you can see the results of your hard work, your skill, and your perseverance. Now, repetition is key to overriding those stories in your library. So next up, step number 2, I want you to practice self-compassion. Instead of being your harshest critic, become your own ally. Everyone makes mistakes and no one has all the answers. We all know that. That's why we're all here. That's called living. So I want you to practice self-compassion to allow yourself to make peace with your imperfections. Imperfections are what make you uniquely you, and understanding that imperfections don't define your worth or your success. As Dr. Seuss said, there is no one in this world who is youer than you. And this is a necessary step in overcoming your self-doubts and feelings of imposter syndrome. Here is your homework. When self-doubt arises, ask yourself, would I say this to a friend who is in my position? It's so simple. This is exactly what I've done to myself. I want you to speak to yourself with kindness and understanding. And remember, self-compassion fuels your growth, and this habit fuels your resilience. Next up, I want you to identify your strengths. So imposter syndrome often fixates on weakness. It ignores your strengths. It reframes your thinking by focusing on I want you to reframe your thinking, by focusing on your unique skills and your accomplishments as well. Recognizing your strengths, which aren't just your achievements, but your inner strengths. I'm a good friend. I'm a great cook. I am empathetic. I am helpful. I am kind. Recognizing those strengths empowers you to push through your feelings of inadequacy and step into your capabilities with confidence. And it can be hard doing this, but repetition is the key. Your homework. It's so simple. Make a list of your top strengths and achievements and refer to that list whenever those feelings of self-doubt emerge, and use it as a tool to rebuild your confidence. If you don't have a journal with all of these things in, that is what you must do. I want you to be repetitive. Every day, celebrate one of your top strengths or 3 of your top strengths. In fact, I even have them in as alerts in my phone to remind me on a daily basis. Finally, I want you to challenge those negative thoughts. Imposter syndrome thrives on negative self-talk and limiting beliefs, and these thoughts are powerful but can be dismantled. You are the boss. Your brain is not the boss of you. You are the boss using your conscious mind. So these thoughts, you can challenge them by identifying the evidence that supports your competence. Replace your negative thoughts with affirmations, and I love that Peter Chatteris has already written, I am enough. One of the most powerful affirmations of all time. So here's your homework. When negative thoughts arise, I want you to ask yourself, is this thought helping or hindering me? Use your conscious mind to question it. Then I want you to actively reframe that narrative with a positive affirmation like, I am capable, I deserve this, and I can succeed. And I've got that on my next screen so you can screenshot it as well. And I want you to consider, how can what you do make a difference in someone else's life? That's what Lady Gaga said got her through. The shift in your focus will flip the switch from fear to empowerment. And I'm not going to say it won't happen overnight, but it will happen. I like saying that, but I'm not going to promise you it does happen with repetition, but we are going to supercharge it. So there are your 4 key points. Embrace reality, practice self-compassion, identify your strengths, and challenge those negative thoughts. Is that achievable for you? Yeah, thumbs up, some nodding. Some people going, oh, I'm not sure. Well, I'm going to give you a cheat. I'm going to give you a cheat technique that will help you on that journey. And seriously, it is unbelievable. So I mentioned before that there's an affirmation, I am capable, I deserve this, and I can succeed. So one of the things, we're going to activate this right now. We're going to start the rewiring process immediately. I want you to take one hand and put it on your chest, on your heart, and one hand on your stomach, which is quite secretly where your inner child lives, where 6-year-old you is. And I just want you to breathe into both of those spaces. Breathing in. So we're really bringing this moment into our conscious and intentional awareness. I love this. It's one of my favorite exercises. Now, if one of your hands feels wrong, change it around and find what is comfortable for you, because we want you to feel comfortable and present. There we go. Now, I'm going to repeat this 5 times with you. And I want you to do it with me. I don't want you to think it in your head. I want you to say it out loud. Here we go. Breathe. I am capable, I deserve this, and I can succeed. I am capable, I deserve this, and I can succeed. I am capable, I deserve this, and I can succeed. I am capable, I deserve this, and I can succeed. I am capable, I deserve this, and I can succeed. So I want to gauge with you. How do you feel as you do that? Do you find that challenging? Is it quite hard for you to believe? Because there's that inner self-critic that will start to fight against this. This is quite a powerful piece of programming. Have we got a few people going, oh yeah, slightly more energized? Dori, that's great. Okay, you feel calm and positive. Okay, so this is the right affirmation for you. I love that. So some people, when I've done this technique with them, they suddenly go, oh, which is good. If you start to feel a little bit of a shift, a little bit calm, This is the right one for you. It's starting to calm your central nervous system, and it's starting to get that message through. Now, that is the affirmation that you can use for overriding imposter syndrome. But as we say in television shopping, but wait, there's more. You see, I didn't want to just give you a stock standard affirmation like everybody else, because I like to do things a little bit differently. I decided I wanted to supercharge it. So one of the techniques that I've been personally using, which today you are the first people, aside from my coaching clients, that are learning about this technique. I'm going to take out my earpiece and I'm going to pull my hair behind my ear. This is a technique called temporal tapping. And this basically takes any affirmation and supercharges it. So it's like putting an affirmation on steroids. So round behind your ear, there's a bone. It's the temporal bone. So of course, as I've said earlier, when we can feel into an affirmation or feel into a story or feel into a feeling, that's when it becomes real, right? So we're going to feel into this affirmation. So while we've embedded it here into our central core, we're actually going to tap it into our brain to overcome those self-limiting beliefs. So all you need to do, and this is proven by science, by the way, you're going to hold your hand and then you're going to curve it over we're going to tap, basically. And what you're going to do is you're going to tap in a semicircle on that bone around behind the ear. That is the temporal bone. And we're going to repeat the same, and you need to do it on the right-hand side, by the way. Do it on the right-hand side. You're going to tap it in. Now, the act of tapping it in makes the auditory input more powerful as we tap it into the brain. There's a whole bunch of science. I don't have enough time to explain it, but I want you to trust the process. We're going to do this together. So get ready to tap with me. Are you ready? We're going to turn this on steroids. Now put your other hand, your left hand, on your stomach, and let's feel how this changes. So here we go. Are you ready? Breathe in for me. Here we go. I am capable, I deserve this, and I can succeed. So just going round like in a semicircle. I am capable, I deserve this, and I can succeed. Oh, I am capable, I deserve this, and I can succeed. I am capable, I deserve this, and I can succeed. I am capable, I deserve this, and I can succeed. I am capable, I deserve this, and I can succeed. Now, you may experience as you do that, I just heard Pete start coughing, it makes me yawn. Now, when you are actually having that physical experience, whether it's coughing, yawn, some people want to swallow, that shows that you are actually firing those neurons in your neural pathways, and you're actually busting out those self-limiting beliefs, which are almost like little bags of pus on your neural pathways. We're starting to bust those, and you're starting to actually create new neural pathways in the brain, which are your pathways of belief. How does that technique work for you? Did you feel a change happen like Pete and I just experienced here in the studio? Did you feel anything? It's such a bizarre thing, but it's actually proven by science. It's a kinesiology technique, and it literally supercharges your affirmation. So if at any stage you are feeling, and I have a list of about 100 affirmations for different, you felt a bit silly, Anita. That's okay. We are not judging you. It actually works really well. And what that's doing is, if you felt a bit silly, it's actually challenging your imposter syndrome belief. Because you're starting to go, oh, people might be looking at me as I'm on here. So keep doing it. Do it in the privacy of your own home. Do it away from people. Do it and continue to do it. This will supercharge that belief. The reason why is when you do just affirmations on a daily basis, it takes around 30 to 40 days of that reprogramming and being really consistent with it to actually change those beliefs. But this, I have seen people make changes immediately in my work. Unbelievable. Some people might take 2 to 3 days to process, but it's so much faster, and it's literally backed by science. So there you go. It's not just some sort of weird thing. So I want to remind you that rewiring, when you add temporal tapping into the mix, is supercharging your affirmations. So there is your affirmation, and I want you to do that over the next week. And then I want you to message me. And I want you to tell me how that's worked for you. It is a bit odd, but by jingos, it works. So I wanted to share with you this week's story to show you the evolution of how my confidence evolved. And I know there's one or two people in the chat who have heard this story before, but look, it's quite funny, but it really shows you how doing the inner work actually changed my life. And we're right in the end stages now. So this is the close, but I like to leave people feeling better than when they came onto the call. Hopefully that's my hope. So when I worked on the TV shopping channel, the types of products that I actually worked, it took me a while to find my confidence, to be fair. But I started to find my rhythm. I started to find my flow. That little fish found her flow in the spotlight. And normally the types of products I would do would be food or makeup or hair products, things like that, typical sort of girly products. And then this one day they came in and they challenged me and they said, Monique, we're going to give you this product that you can see on the screen. It's the magic tacker. And I went, are you even kidding me? What the heck? It looks like a snail. And it's a mix of a staple gun and a hammer, and you filled it full of tacks, and then you put it on the wall and you put a tack in the wall. And I thought, wow, this is going to be my Hollywood moment, isn't it? This is going to be the game changer in my career. I'm going to be the magic tacker girl. Anyway, we were going live. So I'd said to them, let's go live on television across Australia and New Zealand. Let's do it, because why not? I don't know what was going on with me. And so I had taken the magic tacker home and I thought, this is the world's most useless piece of junk, really, and I have to sell it. How am I going to do this? But I took it home and I started putting tacks in the wall and I went, oh, that's actually quite good. Oh, it doesn't leave a mark in the wall. That's pretty clever. And then I thought, oh, they can hold quite a bit of weight. And so each hook could actually hold 10 kilos. I thought, that's great. So I got one of those magic floating bookshelves and I put up some tacks, and then I actually put up my own bookshelf for the first time in my life. I thought, well, this is brilliant. Hey, what else can we do? So I put hooks up in the bathroom and I was hanging up wet towels, and they're really heavy, right? No problem. Then I thought, I've got artwork on the floor. I can put that up on the wall. And then I was starting to come up with every scenario that I could use that would get attention on the channel. I even came up with a story and said, wow, goodness, you could hang 8 tacks on the wall and hang your neighbour up there, like everything. It was very cheesy, but I was quite impressed. And so I thought, this day is going to be my moment. And I was amped up to do it, right? And here I was, the lights were on, we got the countdown, and I was into the demonstration talking about the magic tacker, holding it still, of course, using my face and my voice to create excitement while making the product the hero. And so this was my moment. So what they had done in the studio is they put up some false walls and they put artwork up on there. And my job was to pick up the magic tacker and show them how easy it was. Even someone like me could do it. Place the magic tacker on the wall, you hit that tack into the wall. So easy. And suddenly you can get that treasured artwork up off the floor on the wall and enjoy those precious family moments. You know all the lines. So I put the magic tacker on the wall and here I go. I'm thinking, this is my career making moment. I lift up my arm and then I go smash and I hit that tack into the wall. And as I do, I forgot that the walls were false walls and they started wobbling and vibrating. And suddenly all of the artwork that had been previously mounted on the wall started to shake and fall off the wall. And it was one of those slow motion moments where all of those images started to fall down like this waterfall of chaos and carnage and land on the floor. And in that moment, 3 things happened. So my producer in my ear went, oh dear God, like that, which is always comforting. Everybody in the studio suddenly went like that, which sucked all the air out of the studio. And then finally, I thought, come on, girl. And I looked down the barrel of the lens and I went, and that's what happens when you don't use the magic tacker. It was just that moment. And it was that greatest lesson I ever learnt from TV shopping, which is the lesson I want you to take away from today, which is to back yourself, because you've got this. So in that moment, after I did that, everybody in the studio exhaled. And my producer in my ear went, oh, thank God. And calm was restored to the studio again. And that went on to be a really high-selling product for the channel. So what do we take away from this? It's important to be authentic. It's important to show up because you have a story, you have a gift that you can share with the world. Any day is an opportunity to write a new story in your beautiful brain. And how do I know? Because like Audrey Hepburn said, impossible can become I'm possible. Every single day, you have the opportunity to share your magic with the world, to show that you are possible, to get rid of that label of imposter syndrome, because it is just a label, to acknowledge that your feelings are real and they are valid, and that we are all a work in progress, but they do not define who you really are, because you are amazing. So, to finish up today, I want to give you a bit of a recap. I want to remind you today that it's important to look at the signs. So if you're feeling them coming in, be present with them. Use your conscious and intentional mind to go, okay, that's how I'm feeling. Question those feelings, because that's what we did today. Are they helping or are they hindering you? I want you to acknowledge the trap of using imposter syndrome as an excuse from living that beautiful life you want to live. And then I want you to, based on some of the activities that we've done today, take action. You don't have to live in that hamster wheel. Even the act of doing one thing differently will activate the feelings of personal power returning. And that's when you know you're writing a different story. So, I hope that's been relevant and resonant with you. A lot of people then, when I get to a stage of my presentation, so, okay, cool, so what's next? What do I do next? Well, you've been given some information today. Obviously, you've got to put it into action. You've got to do your homework. You've got to do that temporal tapping until you feel that change. But you can also book a coaching session with me. I do a lot of one-on-one coaching, whether you're wanting to become a speaker or you're wanting to overcome your confidence challenges and find your own voice in whatever work you do. I also have a group coaching program as well, which I'm really excited about, and I have some amazing people lining up for that. Also, if you've liked what I share today, please feel free to share it with wild aplomb and tell people, because I would love to get this message out there. I don't believe in imposter syndrome. It is a label. And collectively, by sharing this content, by sharing this story, we can all get rid of it and get on with it. So that's my message from me to you today. And the one thing I want to leave you with is called Monique Bradley Tōku Ingoa. He kai kōrero aho. I am a storyteller, and so are you. So from today onwards, I want to empower you to make your message meaningful. Engari, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa.